Shame on you! Donald Trump! Shame on you! Congress!
The way these protesters feel is clear. Many people from El Salvador have temporary protected status, or TPS. But now, Donald Trump has given them until September next year to find a legal way to stay or to go home.
Yo creo que esa es una injusticia tremenda.
I think this is a tremendous injustice, not just against Salvadorans, but also Honduran men and women, people with families, with houses, with children born here. So what's happening in this country is actually a tyranny, and it's time to stop it. The US says it's given an 18-month deadline to allow for what it calls an orderly transition. The El Salvador government is urging people not to panic. The first thing I want to tell people is that they need to remain calm. We have another 18 months, from March this year to September 2019. TPS was granted to Salvador after a series of earthquakes rocked the country in 2001. Over the past 17 years, around 200,000 people have made a life in the US, married, had children. Ending TPS could tear families apart.
Nuclear weapons should be banned. There should be a united effort to tackle climate change and efforts made to stop stirring up primal fears about newcomers like migrants. It was a hard-hitting State of the World address Pope Francis delivered in the Vatican. He also called for more dialogue to ease tensions on the Korean peninsula. Peace is not built by vaunting the power of the victor over the vanquished, he says. Future acts of aggression are not deterred by the law of fear, but rather by the power of calm reason that encourages dialogue and mutual understanding as a means of resolving things. The pontiff also repeated his call for a two-state solution between Israelis and Palestinians and respect for the status quo of Jerusalem. The Holy See calls for a common commitment to respect in conformity with the relevant United Nations resolutions the status quo of Jerusalem, a city sacred to Christians, Jews and Muslims.
Città sacra ai cristiani, ebrei e musulmani.
The Pope addressed envoys from more than 180 countries. It comes a day before North and South Korea are due to hold talks expected to address North Korea's participation in the upcoming Winter Olympics.
The bill is in for America's 2017 of wild weather, and the sums are astronomical, with damage from weather and climate disasters estimated at $16 billion. 2017 was the third warmest year on record for the United States, which was tortured by drought, fire, hurricanes and floods, and the effects were felt disproportionately wherever the pace of development, like on Houston's floodplain, has outstripped environmental considerations. Infrastructural damage and lost production added to the bills, while at the same time the US government pulled out of the Paris Climate Accords and reopened land and sea concessions to oil and gas exploration, calling climate science a fraud that would load extra costs onto American businesses. Few, however, seem to want to discuss the rising costs of natural disasters.
Winter weather has caused chaos in parts of Europe. In Paris, as water levels rose to new highs, roads and walkways were closed along the Seine River. A flood monitoring agency predicted that the Seine would top 4.5 meters by Wednesday before stabilizing. Heavy snow brought parts of Spain to a standstill over the weekend. Over 3,000 cars were stuck on the AP6 motorway in the northwest on Saturday night as they waited for rescue services to shovel out the snow. The road runs from the capital, Madrid, to the northwestern Galicia region. Germany's Rhine River was closed to shipping on Monday after rain pushed water levels up, the country's Inland Navigation Authority confirmed. There were fears the high water wouldn't leave vessels with enough space to sail under the waterway's bridges. But it's not all cold and rainy weather. Temperatures in Budapest on Monday hit unusual highs of around 8 degrees Celsius. Local residents donned sunglasses and braved leaving their thick coats at home. However, snow is expected to return by the end of the week.
Doing business in Beijing, President Emmanuel Macron is offering to open up France to Chinese investment. The French president is warning that existing trade imbalances could lead to protectionism. France imports $45 billion worth of goods from China, but only exports $15 billion, he says. Our market access is not balanced. If we don't deal with this responsibly, the first natural reaction, the one we've had for too long, will be to close up on both sides. Let's go for a positive agenda where there's more access for our companies, both small and medium businesses and large corporate groups, and let's create more opportunity for investment in France. Macron is hoping to seal deals, notably in the nuclear, aerospace and agri-food sectors. French nuclear group Areva is close to signing a commercial deal to build a nuclear reprocessing plant. Banking and retail deals are also in the pipeline. Visiting some of China's oldest monuments, Macron is clearly looking for a new way forward. He's on the second leg of a 3-day visit to the country.
North Korea says it will send a delegation to the Winter Olympics in South Korea in February. The announcement came during high-level talks on Tuesday, the first between the two states for over 2 years. Officials from the north said that as well as athletes, they'd be sending high-ranking officials and what it called a cheering squad to the competition in Pyeongchang. On the streets of Pyongyang, this North Korean citizen welcomed the announcement. I think that the Winter Olympics, which will take place in South Korea, are a good chance to show the world a good image of our nation. I hope that athletes from the North and South can do well and be successful. South Korea also proposed holding family reunions during the Winter Olympics for people separated by the Korean War, an emotional issue for both countries. I believe that these formal diplomatic discussions can result in peace. Foreigners see the Korean Peninsula as a dangerous place that's under the constant threat of war, and I hope those concerns don't become reality. The latest talks were held in the border village of Panmunjom in the demilitarized zone. 2017 was a year of elevated tensions between North and South Korea, as well as the rest of the world, mainly over Pyongyang's expanding nuclear program.
A New York fire official has confirmed a blaze at Trump Tower left one person with serious, possibly life-threatening injuries and another with minor injuries. The blaze, which occurred in a cooling tower on the roof, was reported at 7 a.m. local time and was later brought under control. Smoke could be seen billowing from the rooftop of the building, which houses both the headquarters of the Trump Organization and a penthouse condo owned by the US president. Donald Trump was in Washington at the time of the fire.
British Prime Minister Theresa May is carrying out an extensive reshuffle of her cabinet aimed at re-energising an agenda hurt by divisions over Brexit and an ill-judged election. She's expected to promote women, black and younger lawmakers to challenge critics who call her party male, pale and stale. Immigration Minister Brandon Lewis is the new chairman of her Conservative Party, taking over from Patrick McLaughlin, while pro-Brexit James Cleverly has been confirmed as the new deputy chairman. May is expected to keep her team's big names, Brexit Minister David Davis and Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, while Chancellor Philip Hammond and Home Secretary Amber Rudd keep their jobs. The reshuffle was sparked by the resignation of Damien Green as First Secretary of State, who lied about pornography on his office computer.
Donald Trump could be interviewed within weeks as part of a Justice Department investigation into possible collusion between his 2016 campaign team and Russia. Special counsel Robert Mueller and the president's lawyers are said to be discussing how the interview should be conducted.
Clearly, the Mueller team would want an in-person interview. They want to be able to look across the table, and they want to be able to push some buttons.
But what if Trump refuses to comply?
He's the President of the United States. If he doesn't testify, the inference is he's guilty.
So far, the probe has taken several scalps, including Trump's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, who's facing charges unrelated to the campaign but quit over his ties to Russian oligarchs. And last month, Trump's short-lived national security advisor, Michael Flynn, was charged after admitting to making false statements to the FBI about meetings with Russia's ambassador. Sergei Kislyak, who's now returned to Moscow, critics say is a key figure in the allegations. But Russia has denied meddling in the election, and Trump claims the investigation is a witch hunt. Turkey is to extend its state of emergency imposed after the 2016 coup attempt for another 3 months. It's the 6th such extension which has allowed Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's government to launch a massive crackdown. It means Turkey will have been under emergency rule for 18 months. Turkey's Deputy Prime Minister made the announcement after a cabinet meeting, saying that the National Security Council would discuss prolonging the state of emergency this month before seeking approval in Parliament. He said it was needed to confront security threats. The current declaration is set to expire on January the 19th. Since 2016, nearly 50,000 people have been arrested. Critics say the government has used its emergency powers to go after all opponents, including politicians, journalists and activists, and to bypass lawmakers by ruling through decrees.
E dali de momento para um espaço comercial, agora nós estamos back no Informe Deportivo.